Sandra, you're teasing me here with the Golazos. We had a lot of goals scored this weekend.
Yeah, we did. We got to take a look at Portland Thorns versus San Diego Wave. 3-2 the scoreline in this one. Had some goals for Portland from Sophia Smith, Hina Sugita, and then we had halftime 3-0 for Portland. It was looking like it was going to end a certain kind of way when it was halftime in this one, Lisa. When you were looking at this game and you saw Portland doing what they were doing, and you said, gosh, 3-0 against San Diego. This could get worse, right? Isn't that like the initial sort of perception? You're like, God, this might get worse.
Yes. That's exactly what you think when Portland starts a match this way with a goal in the 4th minute. They continued the streak of scoring very, very early and frequently. And then, Sugita, she gets a brace in the 21st and 41st minute, back-to-back essentially goals 20 minutes apart from her. And at this point, San Diego, they don't have that much momentum going for them. They don't have a lot of possession. They don't have a lot of solid defense. This was another tale of not being able to clear the ball. We saw that throughout a lot of these matches. And San Diego, they struggled with clearing the ball in this first half against Portland. And Portland is a team that knows how to score. They know how to find the back of the net. We have to talk about this opening goal from Sophia Smith because, wow, this was a fantastic goal. You can see the development from Sophia Smith and especially spending time most recently with the national team, being way more confident in her abilities on the ball and finishing a strike like that. The first or second week of the Challenge Cup, Smith would not have finished that shot. It was from the far left side of the box. She strikes it with confidence, with conviction, and it finds the far post side netting. A really, really nice strike from her. But this match going into halftime for San Diego, down 3-0 at the half. Carly Telford in goal for the Wave struggled a bit. And this is the second time we've seen her in back-to-back games for San Diego. Not making those big time saves that goalkeepers like Kaylin Sheridan tend to make. Kaylin Sheridan listed as out COVID protocol for this match, so not available at all. But Telford is a good goalkeeper. So it needed to be for San Diego finding a little bit more of that coming together. The change for San Diego at halftime, bringing in Kelsey Turnbow, changed everything for San Diego. She's a player that perhaps in Thursday's game didn't make the most impact, but in this match against Portland, she kept possession. She was able to switch the ball for San Diego, and that changed everything because San Diego won the second half 2-0. They were able to get goals. They were able to find the back of the net. Alex Morgan was way more involved, and Turnbow, she was the game changer for San Diego, ultimately ending with an assist on the second goal for San Diego in the second half.
I'm looking at the substitutions in this one, right? We're looking at somebody like a Kelsey Turnbow coming on in this one and turning it on a little bit different look. We've been seeing Turnbow get the starts for this San Diego Wave side in a week like this one where there's multiple games on a short week, a quick turnaround. It kind of puts the coaching staff in a different position and maybe forces their hand a little bit to make some rotations, right? So we saw Turnbow kind of coming off of the bench and getting a chance to impact the game as a sub versus developing from, the first whistle all the way through to late game scenarios. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on. If maybe they want to test out this for a little bit, try to see what Kelsey Turnbow can bring off of the bench to impact the game versus maybe starting it. Seeing Taylor Korniak come on in and have the impact that she had. We're talking instantaneous practically. Just, Korniak and Turnbow connecting for that second goal just minutes after Korniak gets into the game. But again, we're talking a lot about these areas of growth for teams in Challenge Cup, especially for these teams where they essentially know, listen, semifinals are out of reach for us. Challenge Cup is not going to be longer than we're hoping for. But now you still have a game like this or the next week that they're going to be looking at to close out Challenge Cup. And maybe it is about that now, just sort of closing out strong and finding the areas of growth within your team and trying to still improve on that and develop those moments. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking at these expansion sides or these sophomore sides, as I've been referring
Yes.
to them. I'm trying to look for the areas of growth within these teams. And we saw that in Angel City
Yep.
and All Rain. And I think we saw that in this match with Portland versus San Diego. We saw them come out and refuse to just sort of lie down and accept this kind of blowout win, which can maybe be demoralizing for some teams depending on the locker room and the mentality from players going out there. So I like that they got into halftime, they hit the reset button, and they came out in the second half and then they threw back a couple elbows of their own.
Heck
So
yeah.
it was nice to see that this closed out to be a bit more of a competitive fixture, I think, than maybe people were anticipating. Because like I said, you look at halftime, you look at the scoreline, you're like, oh gosh, is this going to get worse? It got better actually.
You're so right in highlighting the positives that we see from these expansion sides. And the thing that makes an expansion side successful is having experienced players that have played in this league before.
Yeah.
And both Angel City and San Diego Wave have that. And it's because of those players in Savannah McCaskill for Angel City and those players that can go into halftime and say, listen, there's still 45 minutes of soccer left to play. That is a lot of time. We can turn this thing around. We saw that in both Angel City and San Diego in this weekend's games and how they played. San Diego was a different team in the second half, and so was Angel City. Angel City kept so much possession in the second half against All Rain, and San Diego looked much better too defensively. They were a lot more solid. As soon as they won the ball, they were looking to go forward, finding Kelsey Turnbow, realizing that she can be an outlet player for San Diego. As soon as they win the ball, she can keep it for the Wave and look to switch possession of the ball from one side to the other and be that connector from the back to the front of the field. And that's what they did. That's what they leaned into. So those moments of growth and the players taking the game into their own hands has been tremendous to see throughout this Challenge Cup, because that was not happening at the beginning of this Challenge Cup for both of these sides. And it's a huge turning point to see. For Casey Stone, he's got to be happy with how they played in the second half. Freya Coombe, even for Angel City, how her team was able to turn it around.
Yeah.
Those are really promising moments for both of these expansion sides.
Absolutely. Let's stick with this energy, Lisa. Let's stick with girls, because we got to stay with the growth aspect of it, because we're going to be talking about this final game. And it was another goal fest. We had North Carolina Courage and Orlando Pride. North Carolina taking this one 4-2. Again, ton of goals in the opening half. And Orlando Pride, one of these teams that we're talking about is, kind of struggled a little bit during this Challenge Cup. And with the start that this game had, an own goal from Montefusco, led by additional goals from the Courage in this first half. Daniel Smith, and then Jenkins later on getting on the board for Orlando Pride, but then Dabinia kind of closing things out. It just had a lot of goals, and it just made you feel a certain type of way. But we're sticking with growth here. North Carolina Courage, I think, has been alongside, well, we're talking a lot about All Rain, we're talking about Spirit, teams who are standing out ahead of the semifinals that will eventually take place. But North Carolina Courage has been fairly consistent in terms of their performances in Challenge Cup as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting pretty in the East in terms of possibly making their exit into an eventual spot in the semifinals, representing the East region. And having a game like this, a sort of definitive game, when you have a top seeded team in the group versus a lower seeded team in the group, you look at that and you said, okay, well, this game is going to turn out to be a certain kind of way. And while it did go in favor of North Carolina Courage. I want to show some love to Orlando Pride in this match and ensuring that it didn't look like the type of blowout that people were going to anticipate that it was going to be. And kind of shout out Darian Jenkins in this one for kind of putting away the goals in which she was able to put them away.
Huge for Darian Jenkins to be able to step up in this match with a brace, starting this one really in the 15th minute, which at this point it was already 3-0 for North Carolina.
Yeah.
But Darian Jenkins is a player that we've talked about, Sandra, you and I, in losing Marta in the midfield for Orlando Pride, and Sydney Leroux being on limited minutes right now with some injury herself she's dealing with, Darian Jenkins was the next player that needs to step up. I think Gunny Jonsdottir in the midfield as well also needs to step up. And this was the game that we saw Darian Jenkins say, okay, I need to be the one to do this. I'm going to be the leader. Get me the ball and I will find the back of the net. The first goal for her was tremendous. It was picked off. It was a mistake by Anna Morehouse in goal for North Carolina. Because Leah Pruitt is able to pick off this pass and finds Jenkins, and Jenkins just buries this shot. And the camera zooms in on Jenkins' face after the first goal and after her second goal. And you can just see on her face determination that, okay, let's get another one. Let's get the ball. Let's restart this. Let's do this. And as a first-year player for Orlando Pride, but not a first-year player for Amanda Cromwell, as they played collegiately for Jenkins played collegiately for Amanda Cromwell, you can tell that Cromwell was leaning on Jenkins in this match to do that. And I think that we saw more from Orlando Pride than we have all Challenge Cup. The thing about North Carolina, first of all, the 3 goals in the first 9 minutes or so,
Oh my
or
God.
11 minutes, 9 minutes, that's what it was. They broke the record. It was very impressive. Now, my question is, are these goals from North Carolina that incredible, or was it bad defending? Because it doesn't matter.
I don't think it's unfair to bring up. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't matter because a goal is a goal, and North Carolina they were in favor of North Carolina. They capitalized on the opportunities. However, the 3 goals that came in the first 9 minutes were all down the right side for North Carolina. And a lot of people are looking at Carrie Lawrence, the left back for Orlando, because she was the defender in that situation. However, you have to look at more than just the goal scoring play that happened, because for Orlando, Courtney Peterson on that left side, I'm sorry, because in that center left back position was also Tony Presley, who is supposed to be playing cover for a player like Peterson out on the flank for Orlando. And that combination play between them wasn't always there. It wasn't. On the first play, it was an own goal by Montefusco, and it's a great ball whipped in. Smith does a fantastic job. I think she had a really, really good game for North Carolina. But Peterson is pulled way out of positioning and she can't track back. She is pulled into the midfield and drawn by Debinha. On the second goal that happens, Peterson does get beat, but there's no cover from Presley in the midfield. It was a breakdown after breakdown in the midfield and the back line for Orlando in those first 9 minutes. And North Carolina was capitalizing on those opportunities. But that's the difference. I mean, these goals from North Carolina weren't amazing rockets. They were really right place, right time, capitalizing on defensive mistakes.
They just sort of they did sort of feel like that, a combination of that and just constant movement, right? Constant activity from the attacking line that we're seeing out of North Carolina Courage. And listen, yes, I don't think it's unfair to bring that up at all in terms of some of the defensive issues that Orlando has been going through, whether it's been across the back line or in net at the moment. We're starting to really see the impact of losing someone like an Aaron McLeod for them in goal. And I don't want to take away from what the Courage did offensively because of that. I think if you are a strong offensive unit, you're going to want to take a look at your opposition and say, okay, we're going to try to make you pay.
Right.
Frankly, if you're not going to, withstand this attack, then we're going to break through on goal. So just sort of the movement that we've been seeing, I think, from this North Carolina Courage side. I'm loving this Taylor Smith renaissance. It is quite frankly, if not my favorite, one of my most favorite story arcs that we're starting to see the beginning of with her play in Challenge Cup. This is a player that's been moved around a little bit from team to team in NWSL, found herself back with the North Carolina Courage. And not only has she found herself back with this franchise that she achieved a lot of success with in the past, but she's back with head coach in Nahasu who's pushing her higher. She is across that front line for this North Carolina Courage side. And I thought that this game was the type of game where if you weren't already paying attention to Taylor Smith and what she has been doing and providing for North Carolina Courage, I don't know how you are still like blind to it after watching this type of game and the type of activity that she had in terms of just her heat map alone, but also her ability to impact games, directly or alongside her teammates. I mean, we're looking at the crosses that this team whipped
Huge.
in over 33 crosses. And I think when that's maybe not unfamiliar when you're talking about this courage side, but it's good to see that it's somebody like Smith behind the service, or even somebody like a Kiki Pickett, a player that they
Yes.
acquired during the offseason. So you're talking about a goal and an assist for Smith in this match, and then even kind of having that impact during that own goal, which sort of opened things up. Her movement and ability on the ball has been very impressive for this North Carolina Courage side. And I love that this is a game that maybe we can go back if we're further into the regular season and maybe circle and say this was one of those Taylor Smith games right here where we know that she has the ability to do A, B, and C.
Yes.
So I thought it was a really good game from North Carolina Courage. And yes, I don't think it's unfair at all to bring up those very important points that Orlando is struggling on the defensive side of thing and in net. But you also have to have that kind of lethal mentality
Of
if you
course.
are in this league. If that's what separates the elite teams from the not so elite teams,
Yes.
where you see this and you said, okay, here's your weakness. That's my opportunity. And I think that's what
Yes.
we saw from this Courage side. And that is why I've been very impressed with their play over the course of this Challenge Cup.
I agree with you completely. I mean, calling out the players in Taylor Smith, involved in every single moment of the attack for North Carolina and confident on the ball. We saw her on the left, we saw her on the right. She was able to get in behind. And also Kiki Pickett playing
Yeah.
in that midfield. I love her in the midfield. I mean, she's a defender by trade. We've even seen her in the front line for Sean Nahas, but I think the midfield is where she can really shine because she is a little bit more defensive minded. She's able to pop off defenders and receive the ball and try to face up, knowing that she can't hold it for too long. And she did a great job switching the point of attack, which forced Orlando Pride's defensive shift, which exposed so many holes. And the combination from Pickett in the midfield, finding Smith out wide, and Smith just going to goal, getting her head up, and always looking to find a goal or find a goal scoring opportunity is very, very impressive. North Carolina is such a fun team to
Yeah.
watch.
We're gonna
Such
keep
a ton of yeah, it's so fun this regular season, Sandra. It's gonna be nuts.
I love that this is how Challenge Cup is sort of closing out with this sort of level of competition. It's making me more excited for the regular season to come as teams are still in these early weeks figuring things out, but also getting some answers.